of us around the world became invested in the conflicts, craziness and big cats in the hit Netflix series Tiger King.
The documentary transformed its stars Joe Exotic and Carole Baskin into household names overnight. But did it tell the whole story?
Well, after claiming that she was misled by filmmakers, Carole is now hoping to set the record straight in a new series which follows her mission to take down the next Tiger King.
And Carole joins us now. How lucky are we? Hello, Carole, how are you?
I'm great. How are you this morning?
We're great too, yeah. I love it when you go, hello, my cats and kittens. That's my favourite line ever. Now, Carole, your new series, Carole Baskin's Cage Fight, is out now on Discovery. This has been a culmination of over 30 years of trying to expose these cruel animal abusers. How was it? How was it making it?
It was just like our everyday life. For the past 30 years, we have been exposing the abuse, gathering the evidence, and bringing these bad guys to justice. And now the cameras are coming along with us. And people are going to be so excited when they see Carole Baskin's Cage Fight, because it is true and authentic and raw, and it's thrilling.
I mean, it's also extraordinary that these animals are still kept in such great numbers, in such appalling conditions, all over the country. And I'm assuming that, I mean, looking at that clip there and what we saw, these are quite dangerous people.
They're very dangerous people. And in Cage Fight, people are going to see bloodshed. They're going to see people shooting. They're going to see a lot of action and real drama. None of this is staged. And I think they're going to find it just fascinating that these people have gotten away with this kind of abuse for so long.
So a lot of the footage was actually captured by drones, wasn't it? So you can catch them in the action. Was that tough?
It's about the only way that you can catch these guys, because they are never going to let you see behind the curtain, behind the scenes. Even the places that are open to the public, they have protected areas that they don't want anybody to see. There's some places that there have never been photographs that have been released, and the only way we can get that is to get a drone in the air over it.
So what happened with... Tiger King came at such an extraordinary time. You know, we were all locked down. You know, everybody really looking for something to do, something to distract us, and along came Tiger King. And so, if anyone didn't see it, it covers the long-standing feud with you, who you're a strong critic of Joe and his zoo. His hatred for you culminated in 2017. He offered someone $3,000 to assassinate you, leading to his arrest. In 2019, sentenced to 22 years in prison for murder for hire, 17 counts of animal abuse, which included killing 5 tigers. So it was released on Netflix yesterday. This is Tiger King 2, the follow-up. But you decided you didn't want to take part. In fact, you're suing Netflix. So that's the sort of story so far. What happened? What were you expecting it to be when it was gripping the world and you were watching it? What were you thinking?
We had worked with those producers for over 5 years on a program that they said would be like Blackfish, which exposed how killer whales in these seaquariums are suffering. And once they did that, nobody wanted to pay to go see an orca or a dolphin in a swimming pool. And so we had worked with them talking about, here's all of the abuse, here's all the abusers that you need to go and research. And they did, but then instead of making it about the animals, they made it about a made-up feud. I've never even spoken to Joe Exotic. My husband's the person who had handled the lawsuit when he tried to use our name in order to ruin our reputation. And so it's all based on lies.
Hold on, so you've never actually met Joe Exotic?
I have been in the same room with him in court, but I've never spoken to him.
The filmmakers of Tiger King have said in previous interviews, Carole knew that it wasn't Blackfish because of all the things that she discussed on camera. She certainly wasn't coerced with any project that goes on for 5 years. Things evolve and change, and we followed it as good as any storyteller does.
It's just not true. I mean, they were telling me all along that we were going to be exposing the abuse. They showed me a 15-minute sizzle reel that they were trying to sell that was very much on target with what we had agreed on. And when they did ask me questions, and it wasn't like I was volunteering all this stuff, they were specifically asking all these questions. And they said that it was because the animal abusers say these things against me because they can't talk about the real issues. And they said, we just want your answer on this so that we can lay that to rest. Well, that's not what they did with it. They turned it into this huge mystery. But I tell you what, one of the really exciting things that came out of Tiger King 2 is that they produced a letter from Homeland Security. And it says that a special agent in charge with the FBI at Homeland Security reached out to the sheriff's detective, George Fernandez, which means this had to have happened after 2002 because Homeland Security wasn't even around until 2002. And they said that my husband, Don Lewis, is alive and well in Costa Rica. Well, and yet all of this hay has been made about me having something to do with his disappearance when Homeland Security has known where he is, at least since back then.
Well, this is the extraordinary thing because, it starts, we're gripped, the characters are, rich and very colourful as far as Joe Exotic's concerned. And then it paints you as the villain. Don Lewis, your ex-husband, who you're referring to then, disappeared without a trace, declared dead in 2002. His children from his first marriage think that you killed him, minced him up and fed him to the tigers.
I think maybe they should check with Homeland Security, who seems to know where he is.
Right. Oh,
Do you believe that? Do you believe that, Carole? Do you think that he's still alive?
I didn't think that he was capable of supporting himself. He took about $1 million down into Costa Rica, and I had agreed to let him do that so he could prove to himself that he couldn't make a living. And when we recovered what we could out of that years later, it was only about $80,000 because the investments he had made were so bad. So I don't know how it is that Homeland Security says he's alive and well in Costa Rica, but I'm glad to hear it.
This story just keeps unravelling and unravelling, and you got so much hate after the Tiger King. How did you deal with that?
Knowing that I didn't have anything to do with his disappearance, I can't really take it personally that people were so convinced by really clever editing, I think, in Tiger King. And I'm hoping that people will tune in to Carole Baskin's Cage Fight and see who I really am and what I've really been doing. And then they'll understand why these animal abusers say such wretched things about me. Right. They can't talk about the issues.
Carole, I mean, your job, you're taking on some really dangerous people and you've had a lot of threats. Are you not frightened?
Of course I'm frightened. These are really dangerous people. And in Cage Fight, you're going to see, well, you won't even see how dangerous because we weren't allowed to post a lot of the things that were even worse than what they're going to see in Cage Fight that these people were doing.
Isn't it, for you, because what's happened in the past is you shut somebody down, they've disappeared, they've sold off the animals, they've scarpered, and the next thing they're running another zoo, or there's the horrible situation allegedly with the cubs, that once after the 3 weeks that you can play with them, then they get a bit vicious, they can scratch you, so the cubs are killed. So it doesn't, as a sort of conservationist for you, it must be so difficult to know that this is an ongoing thing. It won't stop. You can't stop it.
I think we can stop it. And we have a federal bill before Congress right now called the Big Cat Public Safety Act. And what that will do is ban cub petting, which I think you guys banned like in the 70s, as far as like having people have these private collections. And it also phases out private ownership. So it gets rid of the area where these cub abusers can dump their animals. And so by stopping the cub petting, it stops more than 95% of the abuse. And the reason that it's so important to stop this cub petting is because it creates all of these cubs being dumped into private ownership. And that creates a legal, currently, smokescreen for the illegal activities. And you'll hear about some of those in Cage Fight that come from poaching the cats. And that is what's causing the extinction of the tiger in the wild. None of these cats that are bred in captivity will ever go free or serve any kind of conservation value. And so that's why we need to stop this private breeding.
And from your point of view, because there are obviously critics, and you say the cats that you have in your compound, that they can't go back into the wild. But what do you say to people who say, look, you've got them, you have them? I mean, they're not in massive cages.
There's no cage big enough for a big cat. A tiger can roam 400 square miles. That's why it has been my mission for the past 30 years to end the breeding and the captivity of these big cats. What's different about a sanctuary and a zoo is that zoos are in the business of buying and breeding and selling big cats. Sanctuaries, like Big Cat Rescue, is in the business of stopping that. And the only reason that we have cats in cages is because they've been rescued from these horrific situations where they weren't being taken care of. We can't release them to the wild, so the only thing we can do is give them the best life that we can and try to end the problem at its root.
Now, I know you've been closed at the Big Cat Rescue. How are your cats, Carole?
Yeah, it's been tough because we had to close due to COVID and all of the threats, the death threats that we got against me and my family and the cats after Tiger King. And so that's been over $1 million of our revenue that's been lost. And I think the worst part is we used to have about 27,000 visitors a year. At the end of the tour, we would get so many of those people to call Congress in support of our federal bill. And now they're not there. So we're having to encourage people online to go to bigcatact.com and to actually contact their member of Congress.
Carole, thank you very much indeed. Carole Baskin's Cage Fight is on Discovery now. Thank you, Carole.